Welcome to Below the Forest Floor. My name is Nancy, and today we are going to be talking about hauntings in schools. I was a custodian and a substitute teacher and a teacher's aide. I worked in a lot of schools during a lot of different times of the year throughout my life, and I've experienced a lot of things. So today we are going to talk about all the creepy things that happened while I was working at different schools. All of these schools are in Texas, by the way, and I just want to say, I haven't been to any other schools or worked at any other schools in any other states, but Texas has the most haunted schools I've ever experienced. It was so creepy and weird, and let's just get into it. So I was a custodian for a couple of years before I moved on to being a teaching assistant at a preschool. And while I was a custodian, I experienced a lot of things. In the last episode, I spoke about how I heard a name being called, and it turns out it was my name. And when I went to go see what was happening, I slipped and fell on freshly waxed floors and almost hurt myself very badly. And it turns out, in that school, people hear their names being called, and they didn't tell me because I guess they figured I wouldn't notice because the radio is on, and usually that covers up the sound. It didn't. If you guys want a longer version of that story, you guys can go check out the previous episode where I go more into detail about what exactly happened. But another time that I experienced something kind of strange was during the summer. So during the summer, they have us work during the daytime at these schools, and because I was working still for the crew, which means they just go drop me off at a school in the summer to help out whatever custodians are there, and it was pretty weird. So I got there kind of late because I couldn't find the school. I was looking everywhere and I couldn't find it. So they put me in this building way in the back. It is so far back. It's 3 buildings away from the actual main school. And so I'm working there, and they're like, look, we're going to go on lunch. We haven't had lunch yet. You got here late, so you're not going to get to have a lunch today. Sorry. If you need a little break later, we'll let you know. And it's time. And I was like, okay, fine. So I'm moving desks back and forth, and I'm having to put them into these rooms. And if you've been into any school with older televisions, you know they have those ones that hang up in the not in the ceiling, but they hung up off the wall in the corners. So I would look every once in a while when I'd put a desk down, I would just look up at the television screen because you could see the windows and you could see the birds passing by in the window from the reflection. And I would go grab a desk and put it down and look up. Grab a desk, put it down and look up. Well, one of the times that I put a desk down and looked up, I saw a shadow in the doorway behind me. It looked like a whole person. I thought maybe, one of the custodians came in to check on me. And I turned my head, and there's no one there. And I look up at the screen, and there's the silhouette still. And I realize I can see some of my features in the reflection, like my eyes and my nose. And I turn and look again. No one's there. Look back up at the screen. And the shadow is still there with no features. It's just a big dark shadow. And I just stand there completely frozen by myself, not knowing what's happening. And I start to breathe really slowly. And I just start to think to myself, please go away. Please go away. Please, 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 please go away. And I turn around one last time to make sure that there's maybe, a custodian there or something. Nope, I can see out of the corner of my eye the reflection and that person. And then I open my eyes one more time after closing them and opening them, hoping it's gone, and it's finally gone. And I'm so panicked and afraid, and I have no idea what just happened because I said in the previous video, I've never seen an entity in person. I talked to myself out of wanting to see that, so now I can only mostly hear things sometimes. But there was a shadow person in that reflection of the television, and I was so horrified. And in that same school, I had an incident where they left the radio on during that. This all happened at the same span of time. This all happened during that time when they were taking their breaks. So it was like, what, 40 minutes? Because it was the summer, they'd take a little bit longer on their breaks. Or I think our breaks were an hour, I can't remember. So they're still on their break. That happens. I'm totally creeped out, and I'm going back to grab the desks, and they had left the radio on. And when I went to go grab the desks from the hall, because they were all piled in the hall and I was taking them to the classroom, when I went to the hallway to go grab the desk, I heard someone talking in the radio, and then I heard footsteps coming up the stairs, and I thought, oh, it's just normal static. Maybe it's an interference, with the radio and the walkie-talkies. So I hear footsteps coming up the steps, and I go over to greet whoever's coming up and say, hey, I'm almost done. I just need to scrape off the gum of some of these. There's no one there. I still hear footsteps. I check up and down, and there's nothing. And I walk back up the stairs, and the footsteps had stopped by the time I came back up the stairs. And I hear the radio saying, shh, I think she hears us. And I started almost crying. Oh my gosh, like, what on the radio would have said that if it was a normal, like, song or a normal, just, like, person talking? Like, why? How is that normal? And so I was scared, and, like, I was scared, and I had a few minutes left before the custodian started to come back. It's like, okay, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm going to go to the bathroom before the custodians get back here. So I'm going to just go do that. And when I went to the bathroom, I was already done. I started washing my hands, and someone started jiggling the door handle. And I was like, someone's in here. I thought, oh, maybe they came back sooner than I expected. And so they kept jiggling really, really hard. Like, it was one of those door handles that kind of looks like an L shape, and there's like a hook at the end. And I was like, oh my gosh, who is that? Like, I just yelled, someone's in here. So I dry my hands really quick, and I grabbed the door handle, and the door handle is still jiggling in my hand. And I'm like, Jesus, calm down. And I open up the door, and the handle stops jiggling as soon as I open the door, and there's no one there. And I start running down the hall, because it's a long hallway, and it has stairs that went one end. And I turn really quick. If you've ever been in a school, you know how loud footsteps are when it's empty. And there was no footsteps. The door handle didn't stop jiggling till I opened the door, and I didn't see anybody. And I ran from one side of the hall to the other and down the stairs trying to find out who it was, because that was the third weird incident that had happened to me. And I was going back up the stairs when I realized I saw the other custodians about to come into the building, because I saw them through the glass doors. And I was like, hey, were any of you guys just in the building with me? And they all looked at each other and looked at me, and they're like, no, we were all on break. Remember? We told you we were on break. Why do you ask? And I was like, no reason. I didn't want to tell. They seemed so annoyed with me. I was like, I'm not going to tell these people why I'm freaking out right now. I'm not going to tell these people what just happened, because this was horrifying. And this was an incident that I had. It was all in the same school, all within the same hour. I don't remember the name of the school, but oh my goodness, that was the most activity I ever experienced during the day at a school, and I could not believe what had happened. It was horrifying. I still think about it to this day, and I can't believe, like, that was my first experience actually seeing a physical thing in person. Another incident that I want to talk about that I was not the only one present for, it was actually quite weird. So as I said in the previous video, I didn't get put in an actual school for a while. When I was a custodian, it was mostly sort of a whole situation where multiple of us drove around in a van to different schools who needed help because maybe custodians called out. And we went to this school where people would joke that it was haunted because it was super old. Like, they hadn't renovated anything. It still had wooden floors. It was an elementary school on the south side of my hometown of San Antonio. Yes, all of these experiences happened in San Antonio. And we went to go help clean up, and we got done kind of early-ish. We didn't have to be back at the plant for about 30 minutes, and we were about a 15-minute drive from there. And so we just decided to chill out and talk to the custodians and ask them how they were doing. And we were at the very bottom of the stairs. And let me tell you, like, not only was this school old and creepy just like on its own, they were doing this thing that week where they had these mannequins dressed up as business people, like in different professions. Like, they had doctors and lawyers. And it was kind of weird because we were all upstairs cleaning, and it was just like these mannequins dressed up. And it was like, I don't know, it was eerie. Even though it was like a lot of us, we were all still a little creeped out. And so we cleaned up, and every time we clean up, we had a process. You clean up, and one person, as they finish mopping the room, they come out the room, and the person with the key locks the door. So you mop the room, you come out, the next person locks the door. And we had a routine, clean the room, mop, lock, clean the room, mop, lock. And so that's how we know all the doors are locked, and the person who locks it jiggles it, so we all hear it, we know it's locked. And we do that so nobody can get into the teachers' classrooms that shouldn't the next morning, because we don't want people to steal their things, because teachers sometimes leave their stuff, or like sometimes if a kid forgets something, And so we knew everything was locked, and so we're downstairs, and we're talking, and we're asking how they're doing, how things have been, because it's been a while since we've been to that school. Well, while we're talking, there's like 5 of us, I think, that night, or 5 or 6 of us, including the custodians that actually work there. And we're sitting downstairs in the entrance area, and while we're talking, we hear, and we're freaking out. And it turns out it's doors opening and closing. These doors are heavy wooden doors that we locked. And you just hear them opening and closing and opening and closing and opening and closing all over. And it is so loud. We stopped talking, and all of us looked up at the ceiling, and we looked at each other, and we just started breathing really hard, and like we were trying to stay quiet to see if we'd hear footsteps, and we didn't hear any, but we heard the doors, and it was all of us together listening to the doors just go crazy upstairs. And we were all there. There was nobody in that school except us. So we ran out of the school in fear. We were so horrified about what we all just heard. We could not believe that just happened in front of all of us. And then the one of the women custodians goes, "I left my purse up there," when we were all outside. I was the youngest person there besides another guy, and it was all men in their like 40s, and that young man was the only one who volunteered to go up there with her to go get her purse. As soon as she said, I left my purse up there, everyone just kind of looked at each other and looked at the ground, and he was like, "I'll go with you." And so they go up there together to go get this woman's purse. And we're all looking at each other like really freaked out. We're like, "Oh, we can't leave yet," because the young man that went with her is a part of our crew. So we're all staring at each other, and we're all like talking about what just happened. Like, that's weird, right? We all heard that. That's really creepy. We locked the doors, right? And we were all freaking out. And they come downstairs, and we're wondering, were the doors open, or was it still happening when you went up there? We were all like just wondering what could have happened. And they come downstairs, and they told us all the doors were locked. They went and checked the doors while they were up there to go get that woman's purse, and the doors were locked. Not a single one of them was unlocked. None of them were open. We don't know what happened. We all were there that night, and we have no idea what could have happened and what could have caused that. And it wasn't like you heard one door slam and it's like, oh, maybe it was the wind, or maybe it was the moisture moving a door around, like, I don't know, expanding the wood. No, it was multiple doors. It sounded like the entire upstairs area. It sounded like someone was up there just slamming all the doors. And we never really got over that. It was something we talked about often. Because obviously you have stories about like, oh, I saw something, oh, I heard something. But it's not usually an entire group of people experiencing an event like this. It's still something that freaks me out to this day. I've never had an experience where so many people at once heard and felt something like that together. Well, those are a couple of my school-related haunting stories. I have so many stories of personal hauntings and personal experiences of things I've gone through, both with ghosts and then just involving the supernatural. So I may continue this series in between my regular content where I talk about urban legends and mythology and all that other good stuff. I'm not going to turn this podcast into just story time with me because I experience a lot of creepy things. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you all have enjoyed the podcast so far. This is the end of season 1. Season 2 is going to be coming up very, very soon. I hope you've all been enjoying it. I've heard the feedback. You want longer episodes, and guess what? Next season we are going to get longer episodes and a longer season. If there's anything that you want to hear more of, please let me know in the comments. Please let me know in any social media platform. We have a Twitter, we have a Facebook, we have an Instagram, we have a TikTok. If you guys want to go and talk, or if you guys want to follow us at Below the Forest Floor on any of the social media platforms, but the TikTok is at my regular handle, Esterloon. I do read all of the comments and I do hear all of the feedback, and I cannot wait to give you guys longer episodes and a longer season. Thank you again. We just hit 500 listens during our first season, and I'm so thankful to each of you who have made this such a great experience. You all are amazing, and I hope you have a happy Halloween and stay safe out there. Bye!